Hello again, and welcome back to the Slow Flowers Podcast with Deborah Prinzing, episode 496. This is the weekly podcast about slow flowers and the people who grow and design with them. It's all about making a conscious choice, and I invite you to join the conversation and the creative community as we discuss the vital topics of saving our domestic flower farms and supporting a floral industry that relies on a safe, seasonal, and local supply of flowers and foliage. This podcast is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 850 florists, shops, and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor for 2021, Farm Girl Flowers. Farm Girl Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting more than 20 U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $9 million of U.S.-grown, fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually, and by providing competitive salaries and benefits to 240 team members in Watsonville, California, and Miami, Florida. Discover more at farmgirlflowers.com. For each podcast episode this year, we'll also thank 3 of our major sponsors. Our first thanks goes to the Gardener's Workshop, which offers a full curriculum of online education for flower farmers and farmer florists. Online education is more important this year than ever, and you'll want to check out the course offerings at thegardenersworkshop.com. In 2018, at the most recent Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers National Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, I met a young couple named Taj and Victoria Cotton. It was serendipity that placed us together at the banquet table, the night of ASCFG's 30th birthday celebration, in fact. I learned that Taj and Victoria were invited to the conference by their mentor, Kathy Jones, who joined them at that table. I learned a little bit about their unique co-farming experience, and that's what you'll hear more about in today's conversation. This is a story of 2 couples, one farm, and one special friendship between the generations. Kathy Jones and her husband, Mike Perry, founded Periwinkle Farm 30-plus years ago on land in Chatham County outside of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Their farm products include vegetables, herbs, cut flowers, and fresh eggs from pastured hens, which they sell at 3 regional farmers markets, Fearington Village, which is seasonal, and 2 Carborough farmers markets on Wednesdays seasonally and Saturdays year-round. As first-generation farmers, they began the process of converting overworked dairy crop land into a sustainable vegetable operation with little more than a few hand tools, a walk-behind tiller, and subscriptions to organic gardening and new farm magazines. Kathy and Mike sought advice from other local growers and started attending conferences and workshops to broaden their education. A few years later, Periwinkle Farm became one of the first farms in Chatham County to receive certified organic status. Over the years, they have trained and benefited from the help of many employees. Working with motivated learners remains one of the most positive aspects of the farm's activities. And when it comes to selling their beautiful field-grown cut flowers, Periwinkle creates mixed bouquets for their farmers market sales. But what Kathy, Mike, Victoria, and Taj really love is using their design skills to fashion arrangements for weddings, parties, events, and other special occasions. They also offer custom or farmer's choice buckets of flowers for the DIY designer. Here's more about Taj and Victoria Cotton. After responding to a Craigslist ad for Valentine's Day in 2017 at Preston Flower Shop, Taj and Victoria were hooked on flowers. They quit their jobs and traveled North Carolina's Piedmont farming region, talking with any farmer who had time or space for them. They quickly realized they wanted to farm. Now farming alongside their mentors and farmily, Mike Perry and Kathy Jones of Periwinkle Farm, Taj and Victoria help sustainably farm 4 acres in northern Chatham County, specializing in, as we've said before, seasonal vegetables, specialty cut flowers, and pasture-laying hens. Taj and Victoria reside in Chatham County, North Carolina, with their 2 adorable flower-loving children, Carly and Titus. You may recall that Taj and Victoria were featured on the flower farming panel as part of last December's Young Farmers and Cooks Conference, hosted by Stone Barns Center for Sustainable Agriculture, which I moderated. And I later shared that as a podcast episode. They shared part of their story then, but we were pressed for time to include all the panelists, so I promised to circle back and devote an entire episode to the story of Periwinkle Farm. I'll have a link to the recording of the Young Farmers and Cooks Conference discussion shared as episode 484 on December 16th, which you can find in today's show notes. You'll also see photos and find links and more resources to follow Periwinkle Farm and the Cottons in today's show notes at deborahprinzing.com for episode 496. Let's jump right in and get started. Welcome back to the Slow Flowers podcast with Deborah Prinzing, and I have a very, very special show for you today. This is the most number of guests I've had at one time. We have the team of two couples behind Periwinkle Farm, and I first want to introduce Mike Perry and Kathy Jones, who are the founders of Periwinkle Farm. Hello.
Hello.
And then their co-farming team of youngsters, Taj and Victoria Cotton. Hi, you both. So good to see you.
They're the cute couple.
No, oh my gosh. Don't you do that. Don't you do that.
What did he say?
He said that was the good looking couple. We're not. This is the family.
Yes, this is the farming attire. We might share the video of this. We're not sure, but I have to back up a little bit. I met Kathy and Victoria and Taj at the ASCFG conference in Raleigh a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And we just happened to get lucky and sit together. And you told me about this sort of mentorship of Kathy and Mike bringing Taj and Victoria onto the farm and basically helping them learn how to flower farm. And I don't know if I'm mischaracterizing that, but I was very fascinated by the story. So Kathy and Mike, why don't you jump in and just give us a snapshot of Periwinkle, what it is. And I know you don't just grow flowers, you also grow food. So tell us a little bit about that.
Started,
1991.
1991, so
31 years.
31 years ago. And we started small, and I've been laying brick. I laid brick for 40 years, and then came home to farming chores.
He'd drive up at the end of the day, and we'd have a list of chores.
At one time, we could not afford for me not to have an off-the-farm job, and it slowly worked out. Our finances worked out over the years that we were able for me to slowly kind of step away from brickwork, and so I'm here all the time now. And
that's awesome.
I'm surrounded by lovely people these days.
So tell us where you're located and what's the scope of the acreage and the crops and the whole mix of what's at Periwinkle Farm now.
Well, we're sitting just 8 miles outside of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is a university town located central part of North Carolina. We are in Chatham County, which is an awesome county. And we started out, we have a 33-acre farm. Only 12 acres is open. And we're really producing crops on just a little under 4 acres. So we're utilizing the other 8 acres.
It's about 5 acres.
5 acres.
He exaggerated.
He's the fact checker.
Like Michael said, we started out really small, and this is something I've always urged people to do. We started out on a 1/4 acre plot. And once we realized that it was hard to make any money on just a 1/4 acre, we expanded to another 1/4 acre and another 1/4 acre. So it took us probably 8 or 9 years before we really broke ground and had the fields that we have now been producing in. So originally, it was kind of originally my dream. I wanted to be an herb farmer. I wanted to sell culinary herbs at the farmer's market. And everybody was afraid of a $1 bag of fresh tarragon. Nobody would buy fresh herbs.
Wow.
So we very quickly started growing. We've been having a family garden, and
chamomile.
yeah, our very first production crop was a 1/4 acre of chamomile that we quickly had to mow down.
the gift that kept on giving. Do you still have some of that?
Yeah, there is actually still some
that
chamomile.
pops up. Yeah.
It pops up. But basically, we quickly moved from just fresh herbs to salad greens to just seasonal vegetables, anything that we felt like we had been growing. You know, we always had lettuce in the garden and things like that. So we just started growing more things that we felt like we could sell. And we started out selling at just one local farmers market, a midweek market. And then we got into the big Carborough Farmers Market, which is located out, Chapel Hill and Carborough are like twin towns. And so we got into the Carborough Farmers Market. So we started out we were doing 2 farmers markets. So the game was always producing enough product to have something on our table. The worry was always, are we going to have anything to sell? And we quickly found out that we needed 2 vehicles to get to market because we had a lot of product, blah, blah, blah. So getting into flowers was probably 5 or 6 years into periwinkle production. And that was just, a bed of zinnias. I think that's the gateway drug for flower growers is we did zinnias. And then about that same time, we also adopted 12 hens that needed, chicken hens that needed a home. And so a big part of what we do now is also pastured poultry. So our farm now is vegetables, cut flowers, kind of evenly divided, as well as 3 large flocks of pastured poultry. And they move all over the farm. And so when I said that we're only producing on about 4 or 5 acres, the other acreage, anything that's open is fair game for the chickens. And so we have...
So we're moving chickens tonight. We're one
Yeah.
happy family tonight.
Yeah, it's date night. It's date night. Double date night.
Yeah,
Okay, Mike, jump in. Mike, jump in and tell us about the chicken. I mean, is pastured the same as free range? I'm sorry to show my ignorance.
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean,
lean in.
We
Come on in.
We have like 3 hay wagons, and we have a batch of chickens, and we hook it up to the tractor, and we have the electric netting that goes around, and so we're able to move the chickens. Like the ones we're moving tonight, we're gonna move them down to they're going to be gleaning on the old lettuce and cabbage,
Brussels
sprouts, and.
But really, the main reason we're having a double date is because these are his 200 pullets that have been in a brooder house. So this will be their first time moving into, and when he calls it a hay wagon, there's a big house that he has built on top of the hay wagon. We call them egg McMansions. We have smaller egg mobiles that we started with. Now we have egg McMansions.
I want a photo of this.
We are going to load 200 chickens once they've gone to sleep into this house. And then tomorrow morning, the house will get hooked up to the tractor and driven down to this patch of cabbage and greens and all. And then when they get released in the morning, they will have a fence around them, but they'll be free ranging in a fence.
Got it. Yeah.
They'll be pastured until they figure out how to get over the fence, and then
they're free to fly over the fence anytime they like.
How smart are they, Mike?
Our biggest predators are hawks.
Yeah.
That's but I used to do not too long ago. I did meat chickens, broilers. And that worked out for a while, and but the processing situation got such that I got out of doing the broilers.
So you're just selling the eggs, is what you're saying?
We've also had pigs here in the past.
Wow.
And but I guess maybe it's the older you get. the chickens is enough right now.
Got it.
I mean, he is really renowned for his eggs at the farmers market. Everybody wants Mike Perry's eggs. They are reportedly the best at market. I mean, he has quite the demand.
That sounds great. I wish I lived near you for my breakfast source.
Yes. Yes.
Well, let's let Taj and Victoria jump in, the Cotton family, and I'm just so fascinated about this partnership you all have. When I met you, Victoria and Taj, when you were with Kathy, was it just like the first year that you were working at Periwinkle? It was, I think, 2019 or 18. It was a couple years ago.
Yeah, I guess
the second year.
It was our second. Yeah,
because that would have been like October or November.
Yeah, it would have been our second year.
Yeah,
I think so. Second year.
Okay. Well, some people may have heard your story because you were on the Young Farmers and Cooks panel with me last fall, but that was just a little teaser of your bigger story. So walk us back to how the two of you fell into flowers and farming.
We definitely fell. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys. What else do you have?
We fell. I mean,
we were young and we were tired of doing what we were doing and looking for something different. And so I think we kind of tried everything. I Craigslist hunted, and I don't know. I found this flower shop ad and I was like, hey, they need someone for Valentine's Day. I'm going to go and interview. And he was like, well, I'm not gonna not go. Like, I'm coming too. So he finagled his way out of work, and here we go to this interview. And they welcomed us with open arms and was like, hey, let's make a bouquet with roses. Okay. And that was kind of it. And we left, and Todd was like, we're doing this. This is it. And he's really into prepping and that whole kind of jive thing. So then the farming just kind of fell around that. With that week that we were at the flower shop, I feel like they just connected, and you open up all these boxes and there's flowers from everywhere and flowers you've never seen. It's like, oh, this is Valentine's Day, but there's more than just roses.
Yeah. Where was that? Was that in Chapel Hill?
It's Preston Flowers. It's in Cary.
Okay.
So they just kind of opened us with open arms and welcomed us back Mother's Day, and have welcomed us back every year if we can be there to be there. So, yeah, the whole prepping part, it was like, okay, well, I guess if we're going to do flowers, then we need food. I mean, we had just had a daughter, and we had found ourselves going to Whole Foods and stuff to find nutritious, healthy, delicious food. And that gets really expensive after a while when you're going. And so it was like, well, if we're going to have a flower farm, we might as well have food, because you're going to need food to eat. If you can take food out of the equation, the living part's a little easier. So, yeah.
So Taj, don't you have some, didn't you study environmental issues or something like that in college? There was some kind of pull to the land that I'm expecting you to tell me about.
Bruce, and she gave you some advice from what I remember.
Yeah, so we got up with our extension agent. I really don't know how that happened, how we kind of fell upon her, but we just kind of fell into it. And we got with our extension agent, Debbie Roos, and she was like, the best thing I can offer you to do is just go see farms. That way you'll see what you like, what you don't like, what you want to do, how to make a better mousetrap. She just kind of just go see farms. That was her biggest advice. And so we did that. It was late in the season when we had started. It was May, I guess May or early.
No, April.
April. Yeah. So it was late April. And we just we went, and
you drove up our driveway.
No, yeah. Before,
when
just with Debbie. Yeah. So Chatham County is kind of like a mecca for farming. This is things we didn't know while growing up in Chatham County. And so once we got into it, it was just kind of a snowball reaction. One person would tell you this part, and you just kind of get into that network, and everyone in Chatham County is so willing to share their farming knowledge, I guess. So it was just really easy to connect with all the people. Be like, you need to go see this person and you need to go see that person. And then from all of our driving around, we just kind of ended up seeing all those people.
Were you trying to decide between flower farming and food farming at the time, or?
No, it was gonna always be flowers.
It was always going to be flowers, but
I love it.
The first farm, I mean, we were just kind of whoever would take us.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so late in the season, so we were like, we just need to get on a farm, and it just so happened to have flowers and it had vegetables, and so we were like, okay, this is cool. And he had mentioned Miss Kathy and Mr. Mike. Like, he was like, man, if you want to get into flowers, like, this lady is it. Like, these are the people you need to get connected with. And it was like, they're like rock stars. They won't admit it, but they're like amazing in this area that we're in right here. Everyone knows them.
Let me shake my head. No.
Everyone starts off saying like, these are like, if any flower farmer in this area, they're probably like, oh yeah, I know Kathy, or I've talked to Kathy, or I've been to the farm. Like, they're just those people. And
so you were at a different farm that first year, just trying to grab some experience.
Just trying, yeah, because we were like, we know nothing. Like farming just seemed like it was one of those things you just kind of had to do. And so when we hooked up with him, he said their name, and we have a farm tour because this area is the way that it is. And so we couldn't go. Taj couldn't go because he had to work. And so we were like, oh man, we missed it. But they had this little pamphlet, and Taj and I was driving around on a Monday, and we were like, oh, well, we're out here. Like, maybe let's see if there's any farms out this way. And we so happened to be near Periwinkle. And so the number was in the pamphlet, and we were like, okay, let's just call it and see what happens. And Kathy was like, well, it's Monday. There's not really much going on today. We're just kind of hanging out. And she was like, well, I mean, I wouldn't turn down young people trying to farm. So come on over.
Oh, that's so neat.
So we probably literally sat at this table in a different area, and we chatted for a few, and we left here being like, this is it. Because it was one of those things, like, we knew we needed meat. Like, we just, like, on our farm journey, it was like, what do we want to do? And we decided on the flowers and the vegetables, and it was like, maybe we need meat. And so the next dream was to get on a farm that had all of the things that we actually wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then the community college
needs a cattle farm.
Yeah, and I mean, Chatham County being the way that it is, I mean, our community college has a sustainable ag program.
That's what I thought Taj was part of, right?
Yeah, so Taj did the
we
sustainable.
Both were, I took most like renewable classes, like energy, just general ag, building, like infrastructure, and Victoria took a lot of like plant classes. And
we divide and conquered the degree. We were like, we're probably not going to have that much time, and we have a kid. Like, we need to do this fast.
And you both were also working other jobs at the time?
Yeah, at the time we probably had like 7.
Oh,
like, just getting started, we had 7 because we were in school. We had our daughter.
A work study job.
We had a work study. Both of us were in a work study job. We had like a random jobs that we did to get. I mean, we Craigslist. Once you kind of get into the farming scene, it's like when one farmer needs something and they can't find help in whatever season, it's like, oh, well, can you come help me put this down in the winter? So we just kind of like,
so you're picking up some spare income, but also skills. And
yeah, I mean, because of course at the school there's a bulletin board with job postings that were farmer related. So whatever we could find, whatever we could hear about, we were willing to drive the distance.
Well, I'm thinking about Mike's story of working as a bricklayer for 40 years and then farming on the side, and then Kathy just like making it happen. And I feel like Kathy and Mike, when you met Victoria and Taj, did you feel like that was us when we were their age? Like, did you appreciate their work ethic? Because it seems like that's a pretty rare set of skills, to work hard and be curious.
Well, we were older when we started the farm.
I'm trying to flatter you, lady.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I was 41 when we started Periwinkle.
Okay.
So Michael was a little, just a few years younger. So it wasn't even so much that, but in this game, if you've got any kind of acreage, you always need good help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess what really mostly impressed us, and again, that was one spring when we first met. They didn't start working here. They worked a whole nother year with other people. And Taj came out to the farm with the greenhouse class from the community college. And we reconnected at that point. And then Taj asked for a job and we hired him. And then his back went out and he couldn't work. And Victoria, from my remembrances, she was on another farm just one day a week, really wanting more days and more hours. She said, well, heck, I'll come in and fill in for Taj. And so that is how they first joined us. But if I could go back to the point of really, we can't do what we do out here, just the two of us. We figured that out from the very beginning. We've always had employees. We've always been blessed with wonderful young people most of the time. Some of them have been older. Our farm is enhanced every time new people come on the farm. And, it's just that's been part of our formula always, is having employees. What has been unique and different about our relationship with Taj and Victoria is once we found them, we didn't need anybody else.
Yeah, what a dynamic duo.
We hired different people every year, every season, and some had gotten so lately that some of the people we hired, things just didn't work out, and so when we started working with Taj and Victoria, we kind of really saw that we got along as we worked and as we think a lot alike. And,
yeah, I mean, it was
we have a little bit of humor around here, and
very important.
So,
well, it sounds like it's not a typical employer-employee kind of relationship then, Mike.
Been lucky we haven't had to worry about hiring anybody.
I mean, we've been very, very fortunate that we have grown as close as we have been over the years, because yes, it began as yes, we need employees and they needed jobs. But it's just, I mean, how to explain how different than the angst of, wintertime, how many people are we going to hire? Who are we going to hire? How long is it going to take to train them? All of that has just gone away since we've been associated. Every year, Taj and Victoria know how to do more and more. I mean, we have flower. I mean,
plus we get along with their family. We love their family.
We have family. The kids are great.
All their family's great.
Yeah.
Do you I would say that continuity is like priceless, because
it's priceless.
You don't have to restart every season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then for your market, are you selling year round, or is that part of the issue that you don't really have any, you have seasonal crops, but is there always something to sell? Back to Kathy's point of not wanting an empty table at the farmer's market.
Well, we sold our last sweet potatoes Saturday, so the table's going to be a little empty. Our Carrboro Farmers Market went year-round, maybe 10 years ago. But again, the chickens, thankfully, have always given us a product, and Michael was raising meat birds during that time, too. So Saturday market has been year-round. We now do 3 markets a week, but 2 of those markets have just been April to November. So right now, really, we're just one, and it's a very different, market in the wintertime for us, because one of the things that's going to differentiate us from most of the other people you probably interview is there are no hoop houses or heated greenhouses other than our transplant house on this farm. So we're not pushing the season any more than just, pushing the season a little out. We're in the field always. So,
well, when we did the panel for the Young Farmers and Cooks Conference, there were a few things that Taj and VC talked about, which I was really intrigued about. Their their curiosity to maybe try new crops or try new methods. Can you talk a little bit about how, Victoria and Taj, how you've influenced Kathy and Mike, if you think you have, on some of their attitudes toward running this business and how you've changed it?
I mean, I think it's cohesive. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we're like, and we kind of agree on whether we should grow it or grow less. And going into this year, we're growing new stuff just to push the envelope a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And I mean,
like what kind of stuff are you talking about?
Cosmos. They're going to have us growing a crop that I dropped years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the benefit of the mentorship is like whatever we think that we should grow or maybe we can or cannot grow. Like Miss Kathy usually has tried it. So it's like we don't have to waste time growing something that won't grow here or just hasn't been successful for whatever reason. It's like we can get in and go straight to what we can do and do it really, really well. So, I mean, we just push a little bit, like we see what's out there. And I guess we're more on the internet. So we see different things, more things. And we're like, well, what about this? And she's like, oh, that won't grow here. Or are you sure you want to do that? Like, that's so old. Like, who does that? So, I mean, it's just like a give and take kind of, pushing the envelope.
But they have totally...
With no tomatoes in
no
it.
tomatoes.
I hate tomatoes.
We agree on that.
Oh, you're all haters? No tomatoes for anybody?
I'm the only one. Like I hate
them.
I hate them. All work given to tomatoes is not for me. But I tolerate it because all of them are like into it. And who am I to tell anyone what to grow, really? So I deal with it. But I mean, it's just one of those things where you kind of see what you're spending a lot of time on. And I think it was like we could be doing other things in that time that we're really, really good at. So everyone at market's going to have tomatoes. So we can eat their tomatoes and do something else. So. I mean, I'm not. They can. I might look at it weird.
What is going to be your like star crop for 2021? Maybe Taj and Victoria, you have different selections than Kathy and Mike. I'm talking about flowers.
Yeah, I figured you were going to talk about flowers.
Well, probably straw flower because, I mean, it'll help us extending our season with the wreaths a little better. So
yeah, that was a big thing this year. We did more dried flowers. So, of course, with that, you try to figure out every flower that you can dry. So straw flowers, that's going to be a new one. What do you think?
We're growing
a lot of
growing
new things.
Lysianthus again, which we hadn't grown in years because I had very little success. In fact, was heard to say you can't grow them outside until I started hearing about everybody who does grow them outside. So this will be our third season, and we're growing a whole lot more Lysianthus this year than we did last year, and the year before that was just a tiny amount.
That's awesome. What about you, Mike? What do you love in that you're going to grow this year that's new?
Always look forward to what's new.
Or what you're excited about. Yeah.
We always have different varieties of potatoes.
A man's got to eat. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, but we also do 10 different varieties. So it's a lot of color. I mean, a lot of potatoes.
I follow you on your posts. I think Taj might be the person who's posting from the farmer's market. I see how, well, like the wreath thing, for example, like you really went to town with that kind of product offering at a time when you probably didn't have a lot of edible crops to sell, right? Like at the holidays.
And those are, we're making all those wreaths with the muscadine grapes that Michael takes care of. So we're out there happily pruning his muscadine so we can get more wreath material.
Oh, that's awesome.
That part works well too. But again, what has to be remembered is we are still half vegetables and half cut flowers.
Right.
And it's a patchwork out here at the farm. I mean, we just put in a bed of status right next to a bed of sugar snap peas this afternoon because we have like 9 different blocks that we rotate through. And so everything that, needs to be planted in March gets planted, whether it's a vegetable or a cut flower side by side. And I have always contended that the flowers are so beneficial for our vegetable operation, whether it's beneficials, crop rotation reasons. There's just,
That's
it's
awesome.
so when Mike talks about potatoes are one of our biggest vegetable crops. And I think that the part of our growing 10 different varieties is because we're all visual. All four of us are really all about how the stand looks.
You want that color palette to pull people in.
Exactly. So I think when I got tickled, because I know you were asking about flowers and Michael comes right in with potatoes, because that is really one of the ways we bring people to our stand, and we're really well known for our potatoes.
Yeah, it sounds like you have that, you know how to put on a beautiful display that lures people in, food and flowers.
Yeah. We try.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Do you, so do you sell wholesale like food? Do you sell food to chefs and restaurants, and do you sell flowers to florists? Or are you all retail?
We're all retail. We were certified organic for probably our first 8 or 9 years, dropped certification, and therefore the little bit of wholesaling we were doing of greens to the local food co-op, we stopped doing wholesale because if you're not certified, you lose that edge on being able to sell at a higher premium.
Right, that value add. Yeah.
We're totally cut farmers markets. We do events, event sales. It's hard to remember that we do events because
of COVID, yeah.
Too much last year. But, we will do arrangements for events, or we will sell buckets. Our favorite way is really just
don't worry, we're high dollar. We're high dollar.
I think you have the bucket program on your website. I saw that. And it's like for people who want bulk flowers, right?
Yeah. Well, we definitely, we try to do that, whether it's a 1 bucket or a 10 bucket sale. So we're, whatever way we need to sell them. One of the fun things about the way we do at the farmers market, and we had to change it a little bit this year with COVID, is we typically set up a flower shop at market where we'll take every bucket of flowers that we have and set up a side spot where people can make their own bouquets, or we make custom bouquets for people, or we just crank bouquets during market. And I know there are a lot of flower growers like, oh, they might break a neck of a zinnia if somebody else touches them. There's too much theater and attractiveness to having all those people around your stand making bouquets and making happiness and making beauty. It's just always been a very big part of our Saturday gig.
I love that. And also just that interactivity where people are telling you their favorite flowers. And then like Taj, you've talked about that when we did the other panel, like you're performing in a way, you're like entertaining people with your banter and with telling them, maybe educating them too.
And then when we bring their 6-year-old daughter, Carly, into the scene, whoa, she sold some wreaths the other day just by lying that she made them.
She sounds like a mini-me of Victoria.
She will. So it's good.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about just sort of this, I use the word co-farming with 2 families. I don't know if that's correct or not, but like how far away does the Cotton family live from Kathy and Mike? And like, how often are you on the farm? And is it just sort of become your lifestyle now?
Yeah. So I guess from our driveway to their driveway is 20 minutes. And so as time, like over the years, we've just kind of been here more, but it's not like, oh, I'm coming to work. It's like, I'm going to the farm today to do some stuff. Like the stuff needs to get done.
Right.
So,
your partners on that attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when every year they go on vacation for like a year, for a week. You go on vacation for a year.
You love that?
Yeah, they go on vacation for 2 weeks. And so we're here that whole 2 weeks. If they want to go anywhere, we step in and do chicken chores or whatever needs to be done. We came over today. We helped plant before this interview. So just kind of whatever needs to be done, especially now that we have the kids coming to the farm. because of COVID, it's just easier. Like we just get in work when we can. And when it's easier, I mean, the kids are great out here, but it just takes longer.
Yeah.
So
because you have a second child now.
Yes. Yeah. So
baby Titus.
So we have one in school and one that's just a toddler. So whenever we can get in work, we're here, and they gladly, I mean, they open their arms to that.
I mean, it's also, we're just now kind of finishing up the winter where we just, there's not much work that any of us do, well, other than the chicken farmer, because his chores stay year round, but there's not as much work right now. So haven't been out here as much, but in another month, they'll be here, 5 days a week, or at market with us, 4 days a week, and at market with us on Saturdays. So it really is. We just talk about the week ahead and what we need. And it's gotten where I don't like to do hardly anything by myself anymore.
Oh, you need to have your kitchen cabinet.
Yeah, we have our routine. We do our things together. I mean, we chit chat most of the time.
But work is easier with people.
That's awesome.
It really is.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Mike made some kind of comment about the chickens. Are you getting sucked into the chicken life of Taj? Like, is that part of your portfolio now?
Oh, I mean, I enjoy it. Yeah. I mean, because it just gives me a chance to hang out with Mr. Mike. And
they're bromance.
So I mean, it's kind of like getting sucked in. But I eat a lot of eggs, so like chickens is gonna be a part of our farm process anyway.
Yeah.
So it makes sense because
he has the best eggs.
Yeah, Victoria's not an egg eater, so just to know the process of how my egg is getting to me, what's being fed to the chicken, so my eggs are fluffy and golden yolk is. I feel like it's a pretty big deal.
You're thinking about the whole life cycle of that egg then. I hadn't, like, what you're feeding, what you're feeding the chickens, like they're going to eat the cabbage that you just referred to when When I first met you, we didn't have a long conversation, but I remember taking away this idea that, Victoria and Taj want to have their own farm and this is their apprenticeship. But when I brought that up recently, you kind of dismissed that at least in the short term and said, this is really working for you. Can you address that a little bit? And then I'd love to have Kathy and Mike's opinion about how this, short-term, long-term perspective looks for your future as farmers, the Cottons.
I mean, I don't want to go anywhere. I mean,
it just makes sense. We make each other better, I feel like.
That's beautiful.
The more we stay here, the better farmers we become. We've seen the farm grow in the last 3 years. And we definitely feel a part of it. It's one thing to be employees, but to be a part of something is a big deal for me and Victoria, because that's what we wanted to do. We didn't want to just be somewhere working. We wanted to see something grow, see what it can become, and see what we can become while we're here. And like I said, it's a family. Like, our kids are growing up here.
I love that, the family.
That was the plan, to originally just work for about a year or two and then do our own thing. But
we're happy. I don't think we could go necessarily to another farm. I feel like, we've kind of bridged that gap. So I think the only thing left would be to start our own farm. But then we kind of look at this, like, we could never our farm would never be as amazing, like as far as the soil and like just that, like we can't build that up. That's 30 years that's already been dedicated to that. So I'm 30 now, like that's my lifetime. I can't make that. I don't have that much time to put into it. Like my kids would definitely be reaping the benefits of that to get it to where this farm is. And so at this point, it's just like, I want to make this whatever it can be, whatever the next step is for it. I want to be a part of that. I don't necessarily have to go and start, because we have family land, but there's no need to go just tearing down things when you don't know the end result. So
yeah, and that's all. If that's the case, that's an option in the future.
Yeah, that's always there, but we're happy. Our kids are happy. I'm learning. I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm a stalemate or anything like that.
She's got such mature adults around her.
Such mature adults.
Growing mentally me like you wouldn't believe.
Well, listen, when Kathy said you guys started farming about 31 years ago, and now hearing Victoria say she's 30, I'm kind of in the same generation as Kathy and Mike, and it's really quite depressing in a way.
But it's just
great.
also wisdom that we get from them too. I mean, like I personally don't have the grandparents still here to have that older wisdom, and so it's good wisdom. It's good stuff.
She said it again.
But it's like things I'm learning from them that like I know my grandparents would have taught me. Like some of the things that my grandparents did, I'm like, oh my God, that was so stupid. But now I see Miss Kathy and Mr. Mike, and I'm like, oh well, that makes sense. Like I should do that. Like that's why my grandpa had money, because he did this. You know, it's just like little things that you pick up on that kind of I feel like has gotten skipped in time and generations. And so I think that is, I mean, these are our best friends. We don't hang out with anyone else. We like come here, we work, and we go home. I mean, there's
beautiful.
Not much else in between.
It is beautiful.
Kathy and Mike, what advice would you have for other kind of baby boomer farmers about taking the risk or the leap, or opening their gate to mentor another younger farming couple or younger farmers? Do you think this is just such a unique situation it couldn't be duplicated or replicated?
I mean it's very unique.
Yeah.
I think we are extremely lucky. We're lucky. We are extremely lucky.
I think it's also a matter of finding another couple who knows that they want to farm as a couple. I don't know if
we're
That's
also
true.
their first couple that they've hired together. That is very important too.
That was a no. I would never wanted to hire a couple, because what if they broke up in the middle of the season,
or both of them get sick in the middle of the summer, then that takes both people away from, I mean, that's the height of the year. So,
but as far as, I think that a number of farmers in our area have worked hard in different aspects of whether it's bringing on the next generation in their family, or trying to, set up something with another, younger farmer. And we haven't seen a whole lot of success with that.
None of that hardly ever works out.
Doesn't seem to work. So again, I just thank every day how lucky I am. And I hope I say thank you enough, and how much we love them and how much we appreciate them, because I really believe that they are enabling us to farm longer. I mean, I am now 71 years old. I have lots of people saying, when are you going to retire? And I don't want to retire. This is what I love to do.
This is your life, right?
It's our life. And, Taj and Victoria are enabling us to continue doing what we're doing. And it's just, I feel like we do grow. We grow every year as a couple, as the four of us, and what we're producing, and we're getting better. And they're really way better designers than I ever was. And, so there's just so many different attributes.
That's awesome. It's complimentary all around.
It is.
Well, this has been so amazing. I just adore all of you, and I'm so grateful we could finally get this podcast going. I want to come visit you sometime. I promise I will once I can travel again. I've got to get the vaccine, but
West Coast. Well, Michael and I have successfully completed our 2-shot regime, and Taj and Victoria just got their first shot this week, because in North Carolina, farm workers are considered essential workers.
That's a blessing. Wow, that's really awesome.
Excited. So,
well, you're going to be at the farmers markets and interacting with the masses,
right,
all season. So you've got to be safe.
That's right.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share that I didn't ask you? We could go on all day, but I know you're going to go move those chickens tonight.
You got any closing words?
Yeah, any final wisdom, Mike?
He's the wisdom.
The Perry of Periwinkle?
Eddie.
The Perry of Periwinkle.
No, I just, you ask a question about the future, and now, and we're talking about the future in the future, but both, you can sit here and say you're both looking forward to every day with Taj and Victoria.
You're glad to see him drive up the driveway.
Oh, stop it.
We're glad to travel.
Yeah, we're happy to drive up the driveway.
Everybody's going to be a little, I don't know, blushing over this.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I would love to share photos of all these groovy things you're doing on the farm. And I know that
we're on Instagram,
Yes.
Periwinkle Farm, and we do have a website,
Yep.
Periwinkle Farm. If people remember that our farm is named after the Perry family, Perry hyphen Winkle.
Okay,
So.
yeah, we'll share the links, and I have some great photos that Victoria and Taj gave me before, but maybe we can get a few more to round things out. And for people who haven't started following you, we want them to, because there's a lot of fun going on here, and maybe we can all experience it vicariously.
We try.
We try.
That's that in about an hour.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, yeah, if you see an Instagram post and it has music and captions, Taj and Victoria did it. But if it's just a plain old picture, I probably did it. That's the extent of my capability.
It takes a village, Kathy.
It does.
It's hard.
Thank you guys so much for saying yes and taking a time out of your weekend
Thank
day.
you.
And this is just so special. I'm so happy that we've become long distance friends, and maybe sometime we'll be together again in person. Thanks, you
I
guys.
hope so. Deborah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I am inspired by the story of Mike and Kathy, Taj and Victoria, and I can't wait to see more from this amazing family, a potential model for other established farms in need of young talent and enthusiasm. As a bonus, I'll share video from our Zoom conversation in today's show notes. I found it so much fun to see everyone as I interviewed Mike Perry and Kathy Jones, along with Victoria and Taj Cotton, on location at Periwinkle Farm. And I want to bring you in on that experience as well. You can find the video clip in today's show notes. It's fitting that our next sponsor thanks goes to the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers, through which I met these lovely humans at Periwinkle Farm. Formed in 1988, ASCFG was created to educate, unite, and support commercial cut flower growers. Its mission is to help growers produce high-quality floral material and to foster and promote the local availability of that product. Learn more at ascfg.org. This Friday, we are hosting the March Slow Flowers member virtual meetup, and all Slow Flower Society members are invited to log in via Zoom for a fantastic session. You'll meet 3 Slow Flowers members who will share all about dye plants and natural pigments from botanical ingredients. Learn how you can grow dye plants for your own projects or to market to other artists. Our special guests include Elaine Vandiver of Old Homestead Alpacas and Golson Gardens, based in Walla Walla, Washington. She's a past guest of this podcast. Julie Beeler of Bloom and Dye, based in Trout Lake, Washington, and Lourdes Castanares Still of Masanaga Flower Farm and Tinta Studio, and she's based in La Broquerie, Manitoba. I want to emphasize that your Slow Flowers membership gives you an important narrative and mission to share with your community and your customers. And joining our monthly meetup is one very popular benefit that has emerged in the past year, educating, connecting, and inspiring hundreds of you. Check our show notes for episode 496 to find the link to join this Friday, March 12th at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. I can't wait for this incredible lineup of savvy growers and artists to share their information with our community. Our next sponsor thanks goes to Mayesh Wholesale Florists. Family owned since 1978, Mayesh is the premier wedding and event supplier in the U.S., and we're thrilled to partner with them to promote local and domestic flowers, which they source from farms large and small around the U.S. Learn more at mayesh.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. The Slow Flowers podcast has reached another milestone today. We have been downloaded more than 700,000 times by listeners like you. Thank you for listening, commenting, and sharing. It means so much. As our movement gains more supporters and more passionate participants who believe in the importance of our domestic cut flower industry, the momentum is contagious. I know you feel it too. I value your support and invite you to show your thanks to support Slow Flower's ongoing advocacy, education, and outreach activities. You can find the donate button in the column to the right at deborahprinzing.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of the Slow Flowers podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one vase at a time. And if you like what you hear, please consider logging onto iTunes and posting a listener review. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person, company, or organization. The Slow Flowers podcast is engineered and edited by Andrew Brenlin. Learn more about his work at soundbodymovement.com.